There's a kind of famous, Simpsons meme. There's a scene in The Simpsons where they cut to the Democratic National Convention, and there's a big banner that says, "We hate life and ourselves." Like, it's like if you're a Democrat, if you're a Democratic politician, you're a Democrat because you had some sense of idealism, or else you would just be a Republican at this point. And the Democrats, I mean, policy-wise, a lot of them are like Republicans. But these are people who had some sense of like idealism, and they sold it out along the way. They convinced themselves, well, it's unrealistic. You have to make these sacrifices. This is the way the game is played. And so a part of them like hates themselves because on some level they know they're selling out. But they also like hate their base because they think their base are these naive people, and they should wise up like they have. And so their whole life is like defined by like making these sacrifices and
to the altar of their opposition.
That's the story of any like moderate Democrat now, is that they accepted at some point they have to like make concessions, and they like gave up their idealism. And that's what Democrats do. And again, they just define themselves as being the smart ones, which is like, again, not hard compared to Republicans. And so they lived like for this inside baseball shit. They live to like be these self-sacrificing, oh, we got to focus on pay-go and only pay-go now. And even though it's not going to get much attention. And no, it's like exactly the wrong instinct, but it's like this learned helplessness and these like self-defeating instincts that I think Democrats and liberals in general have just developed.
I don't think that being well-versed and able to manipulate the details of the Democratic Party is necessarily a distraction from substantive action. I think in that interview with AOC on The Intercept, it was really rough in terms of, I mean, not just what she was saying, but her tone of voice was, I don't want to be like the body language analyzer on MSNBC and everything.
Yeah.
But she says that she's at a loss and seriously disappointed. And it doesn't sound like she's just saying that. Like, she sounds like someone who's under the gun, like they're behind on their rent or in some like really serious way. There was really a desperation in her tone. And I think what it makes me want to do is like call her office and just be like, I just want to let AOC know that we're with her or whatever.
This has been reported before, like how disenchanted she is with things. And it's like, yeah, I understand that. I don't think she's having fun. And I think it is because she's like trying to like win these games that are basically unwinnable. Like there was hope that she would get this chair, and it was taken away from her at the last minute. And people are saying, oh, this is Jimmy Dore's fault because he raised too much of a stink. And then AOC had to go on Intercepted on this podcast and like criticize Pelosi. And that's why she didn't get her chair, which is just such weak thinking. I mean, it's like she could have lost and probably would have lost that chair for any number of reasons anyway, because it's like all the people that were voting on it were just these corporatists with oil and gas money. But yes, she should be rallying your base to help achieve things. But instead, she is like being sucked into trying to play this like inside baseball game, which is not the strength of the left. The strength of the left is their movement.
To a certain extent, that is what she's hired to do. I mean, she is hired. You're right. I agree with like her upping the popular side of her politics, but she is also there to be in the room for the rest of us, you know what I mean? And to know what's going on and to learn how to make the tweaks and play that game as well. And I think she's learning how difficult that is. And
yeah,
I'm hoping that she will come to the realization that you're describing of leaning back on the popular politics that got her where she is, because I think people would be there for her. I think they really would be. I think if she and Jamal Bowman and Rashida Tlaib and Bernie Sanders, if they all decided if they all said, come with us to the steps of Congress or whatever, you know what I mean? If they did something like that, I think the turnout would be big. I would go. Who would fucking go? I think a lot of people would fucking go, especially this time where, everything's just getting that much more desperate.
I mean, I think there's a lack of, not just with her, but on the left, it's like there's a lack of like, I don't know, creativity maybe. And, I think we got to look at new ways. And it's not just the ways that have worked in the past. We got to look at new ways to do things. And it's not going to necessarily be the things that have been done in the past. I mean, it's like the system has evolved to where it can just like absorb, things like protests at this point. The police
Yeah,
corral the
it can
people and they
create
don't let it.
feedback loops to vent
Yeah.
off that energy.
And the police, it's like they corral people, they don't let it get too out of hand. And it's like that was something that worked well, I guess. It has worked well in the past, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It's like I think we need to be creative and think of new ways to really kind of rattle the cage and get attention and build the movement.